Hi guys, my name is Stefano and welcome to my channel where I talk to you guys about health, wellness, and self-improvement, and I try to bring information to you so that you can help yourself improve on a day-to-day basis. So for today's episode, I want to talk about the different type of workout regimes that you can go through. The first one would be basically resistance training with machines. The second one would be resistance training with free weights. So that means with dumbbells, with kettlebells, with barbells that you can add plates onto. The fourth one would be calisthenics, or what is also called bodyweight training. And the fourth one is general sports, just sports in general. So I'm going to go over what these four workout regimes are like, basically explaining their advantages, their disadvantages, and who should be doing them, depending on your goals and your objectives. So the first workout type is resistance training with machines. Here, basically, you're putting yourself on a machine, and the idea is to increase the mind to muscle connection. So you really want to establish a link between your brain and your muscle. So this is really working on your nervous system to basically get adapted to what part of your brain should activate which muscle during a specific movement. So this is more for people who need to build a base, people who are very much new to the whole resistance training. This is also really good for people who need to rehabilitate, so to basically bring back the strength that they've lost due to maybe injury, due to maybe not working out for a really, really long time. So for example, somebody who has torn their ACL, you want to go through a type of leg extension maybe workout first so that you can build the mind to muscle connection and you can slowly build that strength in those areas. One of the main advantages of using machines is that it's fairly secure and fairly safe. There's a lot less risk to get injured because the range of movement is limited by the machine. So if you so happen to drop the weight, it will be stopped by the machine and you won't get hurt. So that's one of the main advantages. Another important advantage is, like I mentioned, you can build this kind of mind to body connection. So a lot of bodybuilders that want to build symmetry in their body, maybe they feel like their traps is not developed enough, so they can go to a machine and isolate that muscle. That's really the key word here, is to isolate that muscle and build the strength in there, or to build the muscle mass that is in that section. So that's why bodybuilders tend to like to use machines sometimes, is because they can really isolate specific muscles. Some of the disadvantages, however, is the range of movement. For example, the machine is set to a specific type of distance or to a specific range of movement. So people who are maybe much taller, who are maybe much shorter, if they go on these machines, they will be limited by the amount of movement or the range of movement that they can do. So it's technically not best suited for all types of people. These machines are set for the average person. Another disadvantage is that you can't really work on your coordination. As I mentioned before, it really focuses on isolating specific muscles. So if you want to work coordination, then it's not really the best type of workout that you want to do. And lastly, one of the disadvantages of having to use machines, of course, is, the accessibility. You cannot just buy these machines online, or you can, but you have to be super rich. I mean, these machines are not cheap. You have to have access to a gym. The second style of working out is unguided resistance training, also known as free weight training. So this style of workout basically means that you are using free weights. The weights are not attached to anything. You're basically picking them up, such as dumbbells. You can also use kettlebells. The majority of people would use barbells, where they can add weights onto the barbells and then change the weight according to that. And that is basically a free weight that you can add to you to build resistance. So this style of workout basically focuses on hypertrophy. If you've never heard of hypertrophy, basically in a nutshell, hypertrophy is building muscle mass, basically adding more volume to your muscle. The typical kind of workouts that you might see, in free weight training are, for example, bench press, overhead press, bent over rows, squats, deadlifts, lateral raises. I mean, the list goes on and on. But you can also have exercises that use a pulley system. And this just means that you're using either a rope or a cable that connects to a pulley, which is then connected to a weight. So your resistance basically is still connected to a weight, but it allows more freedom of movement when you are attached to a rope or a cable. An example of a pulley type exercise is the most standard, I think, is the tricep pull down. So you basically are holding on to a rope which is connected to a cable, and this cable goes to a pulley which then goes to a weight that you can adjust. And as you put yourself in position, you can pull on this rope. There is resistance from the weight, and like that you can do your workout. So some of the advantages of doing free weight exercises is that several muscle groups can be activated at the same time. You can also have more activation of the core, and you can work out more on coordination when you do this. The main disadvantages of free weight training is that a greater level of technique is required, and you can be at a higher level of injury if you don't perform these exercises correctly. Also, like machine exercises, free weight exercises require you to have some kind of free weights laying around. So you need to have either access to a gym that provides you with these dumbbells or these barbells and the plates to attach to the barbells, or you need to buy your own supply of barbell or, dumbbells, kettlebells, whatever it is that you want to use. The third type of workout is calisthenics, or also called bodyweight training, which is one of my favorites. So here, the idea is that you're using your own body weight as resistance. For example, the push-up. Or for example, a pull-up. Or the handstand push-up. And for your legs, you can do a variation of squats. The difference between the first two workouts and this one is that you are not using any extra weight whatsoever. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can add weights when doing calisthenics, but of course you only want to do that once you've built the strength and the proper technique to go to the next level. The real benefit of doing calisthenics, and this is why I recommend all my clients to do some kind of calisthenics, is that you can help develop functional movement. By functional, I mean it helps you to perform for everyday kind of activity, for everyday kind of movement. Calisthenics is also very good for sports because for most sports, you're basically moving around your body weight. However, you do have some sports where you are, throwing around some kind of mass or some kind of weight, or you're carrying some kind of weights. For example, American football, they have pads on that can add a few kilos, so there is a bit of weight added to their own body weight. You also have Olympic sports whereby they are throwing a weight. For example, javelin, they are holding on to a spear and they are throwing that spear, which is an extra weight. And for those kinds of situations, so for Olympic sports, you might want to do a combination of calisthenics and free weight resistance training so that you can improve for that type of sport. But in my opinion, calisthenics is the best option for everyday people because you really build on that functional strength. I mean, you will never find a person in real life who is doing a bicep curl, who is basically isolating that bicep in whatever kind of movement it is. I mean, maybe a arm wrestler you might think would use, a bicep curl and use mainly his bicep. But even then, he is using more muscles than just that. He is also using his chest muscle to pull. He's using his bicep. He's using other synergistic muscles to make sure that his movement is as strong as possible. The great advantages of calisthenics is being less prone to injury because you are not using any kind of weight. You're only using your own body weight. Everybody can do them. You can work much more on coordination and several muscle groups at the same time. It is completely free. You can do it anywhere, in your living room, in your garden, in your bathroom, anywhere. And it can be adapted from beginners all the way to advanced athletes. For disadvantages, I would say maybe the only disadvantage is that it's not really suited for building muscle mass. Bodybuilders are probably best staying in the free weight resistance and maybe the machine types of workouts versus the calisthenics. Of course, if they want to now work on functionality and coordination, then calisthenics is probably a really good option for them. Maybe calisthenics with added weights, maybe calisthenics with a plate on your chest to add some weight to your own body, or maybe calisthenics with wrist weights or ankle weights or a belt attached to your waist with some weights attached to it. You know, there's many options for that. And then finally, the fourth type of workout, very simply, is to just do sports. So sports, you might think, kind of fall into the category of calisthenics. There is a bit of an overlap. However, calisthenics, majority of the time, will focus on two-dimensional movement, while sports, majority of sports, really focus on three-dimensional movement. And the great thing about sports is that it's probably the funnest out of the four different workout types. When you're doing sports, the primary incentive is to just have fun and just enjoy yourself. And the actual working out comes secondary. That's why I always recommend people or clients to do or find a sport that they can really have fun or be passionate about, because they will enjoy the time, they will want to go and do that sport, and at the same time they will be training their body and their muscles, their nervous system, etc. So me personally, I like to play football because at the same time as I enjoy it, I can work out my legs, my core, and my coordination at the same time. That's also why I like to climb, because when I climb, I can work out my arms, my back, and my core. So as I mentioned before, you know, football and climbing also really focus on three-dimensional movement, which adds an extra layer of strength training to your regime. When doing a sport, we don't usually focus on a two-dimensional or linear type of movement, depends on the sport, but majority of the time we are doing a three-dimensional movement. We are going forwards, we are going sideways, and we are twisting a lot of the time. So those are the four workout types. Let's do a little recap. We have the first one being machine training, which is really focused for people who want to build a base, people who are completely new to the whole workout world. Also really good for people who need to go through a type of rehabilitation, or a person who's gone through an injury would most likely want to go to machines. Then secondly, we have free weight workouts, which are really good for hypertrophy or for building muscle, for building strength. And then thirdly, we have calisthenics, which is really good for building functional strength. So using functional movements, lots of compound movements to build functional strength. And then we have sports, which is really good for enjoying yourself, having fun, and three-dimensional movements as well. Very important here in this category. So depending on your objectives, you might do a combination of two, a combination of three maybe. Personally, I tend to ignore machines because I'm already past needing a base or don't need any kind of rehabilitation, so I never touch machines anymore. I focus most of my time on calisthenics. I occasionally do some resistance training with unguided free weights, so I do lots of squats, deadlifts, bench presses mainly, mostly compound movements, and I do a lot of sports to basically just have fun and to also work out in this three-dimensional space. Alright guys, so there you go. I hope the information is useful. If you liked the video, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button so that you can get more videos in the future. And I really hope this helps you out in your goals or in your objectives, whatever it is. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. So take care guys.